E360 TV proudly presents Messages of Inspirational Stories TV show. Live streaming now to millions of devices around the world on Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, Android TV, YouTube Live, Facebook live streaming. Our shows are available video on demand on these channels. And we broadcast daily, Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time on these channels. On Mondays, Expanding Your Business. Tuesdays, Natural Health and Wellness. On Wednesdays, we cover mentoring our youth. And on Thursdays, our new show, Ideas Worth Knowing. And on Fridays, Women in Leadership. To be able to watch our television show on your favorite device, please go to e360tv.com and download the app for your favorite device. Brought to you by our producers and hosts, Jim Grant and Donna Guinois. Along with our host, Beata Severin Reed and Emerson Brantley. Supported by our admin team of Michaela Vidal and Gaia Guinois Balconi Weda. And welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. The Messages of Inspirational Stories is proudly brought to you by the good guys at the 6minutewebinar.com. And along with the 7 Levels of Truth, our good friend, Mr. Bill Heinrich, he talks about this book being a 30-year journey of his life. He walked away from his life after his wife passed away from cancer, and he had to find himself. The first thing that he did in his journey was quit drinking, because he realized that was a crutch. And he went to literally find himself. And Bill records his journeys as he studied a lot of different philosophies and a lot of different things. And he records everything in the 7 Levels of Truth here. Let me get my fingers out of the way so you can see the cover of the book. And I like what he says here on the very top portion of this book. On the back cover, right across the top here. I'm just going to share this first little paragraph with you right there, because he says it very, very well. He says, this book is for anyone that's seeking answers, solutions, and success in life. Your birthright. Your birthright. I want you to own that. Your birthright is abundance, love, peace, and joy. And the 7 Levels of Truth will allow you to achieve all of these results in your life. And Adam, I don't know if you know this here, but I was very honored when Bill asked me to endorse the back of the book there.
I can definitely imagine that.
Yeah, you can see Jim Grant, TV producer and host, Message of Inspirational Stories. And what I said there was that, if I can read my own writing here, Bill
Sometimes
Heinrich.
we got to put up the glasses a little bit.
Oh, yeah. I got to twist my ears a little bit to zero in my eagle vision.
There you go.
It says, Bill Heinrich, this is what I wrote about Bill. Bill Heinrich is a master at showing you how to eliminate the negative distractions that rob you of your energy in your life. If you want to love your life, have total clarity, and find your true purpose in life, I highly recommend this book. And that's what we're going to be talking about today, especially with young people. There is so many negative distractions. All of the games that they play, that is just a game, but it's a very violent type of theme. That has impressions, that leaves impressions on the mind.
I also think, just to add on top of that, Jim,
Sure.
I feel that there's a social media draw right now as well that decreases our, motivation and just allows us to have our dopamine receptors activated anytime that we'd like.
Oh, yeah.
Which,
You
if
know,
you don't know anything about dopamine, it's regulated. It's a natural chemical occurrence that happens within all of our brains. And I know we'll get into the topic of brains
oh,
later on
yeah.
in the show today, and how we think about certain things. So just wanted to
Sure.
add that little bit about dopamine there for everybody.
I remember the very first time that I was introduced to a positive self help type of book. And that book was Success Through a Positive Mental Attitude, that was co written by W. Clement Stone
Mm,
and Napoleon Hill.
yes.
Na- when Napoleon Hill, he had retired and he was living in Glendale, California, and W. Clement Stone was running an insurance company, and his someone gave him a copy of it. And let me start a little bit back about W. Clement Stone, where he came from. This is the kind of story that young people need to hear.
Mm.
He was born in Chicago, Illinois, back in 1902. His father died when he was 3 years old, leaving the family very heavily in debt. And he would hawk newspapers as a boy to bring money home for him and his mother. And he grew up on the south side of Chicago. And his mother was a dressmaker. By 1915, he was only 13 years old. He owned his own newsstand. In 1980, he moved to Detroit and to sell casualty insurance. And Stone dropped out of high school so he could work full-time selling insurance.
Hmm.
And it was during this time when he was selling insurance, someone gave him a copy of Think and Grow Rich. He read it, and he recommends when you read a self-help book, read it like a personal letter from a dear friend to you. Don't just casually skim through the pages. Read it like your friend is sharing something very, very valuable to you with you. And you know, Adam, it made such an impression on him because what he read from Napoleon's Hill Think and Grow Rich book was right in perfect alignment with his way of thinking. And he says, wow, this is it. And he immediately bought a copy for each one of his salespeople, and with the instructions, you need to read this. And they did.
Mm.
And guess what happened to the sales with casualty insurance?
Well, the only plausible explanation would be they skyrocketed.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did. And then Napoleon Hill, like I said, he was retired in Glendale, California. And Stone went out to see Hill and to coax him out of retirement. And he wanted to start a magazine giving people steady shots of, positive mental attitude things. And he started him and Hill together started they became authors in the Success Through a Positive Mental Attitude and the magazine Success, which later became Success. And it was just amazing to me how these two came together. Now, the point I share this with you for young people, there are a lot of young people who do not have any direction in life.
Or access to a motivational direction or purpose.
Yes, they don't even know anything about success through a positive mental attitude. They don't even think about thinking positive. All they do is they just react. If they're happy, they're glad. If they're not happy, they're wanting to change things. That's about it. And they're always looking for self-approval from somebody. Usually it's their peers. And that's normally the worst section of people to go to get approval from is your peers.
Right.
And, you know, it's kind of like the old saying, you're known by the company you keep. Well, yes, you are. That's something that I'm sure you heard growing up. I heard growing up. And you
Well,
know
I
what?
actually have a story about that, if you don't mind.
Go right ahead.
So when I was thinking about being in a solid area, you know, in a state that I could grow up and be, right? There was a group of friends that you make when you're in middle school, and those group of friends are usually those that get together and they do things either after school or they go home together. So one time when that group of friends and I were going home together, we saw this car and this other car, you know, kind of beating at each other and beeping at each other. And all we usually do is we crack jokes on the way. We talk about our current games of events. And leading up to, you know, who you pick, it really makes a difference because one of my friends decides to go out and actually talk to one of the people and who's honking at each other in the middle of the street. And now we're middle schoolers. You know, middle schoolers are not supposed to be in the street.
Yep.
And lo and behold, well, you know, he got chewed out by these two guys, and they both then went on their way. Kind of goes to show that if you're a mediator in a situation of these two conflicts, regardless of, you know, who they are, because technically the people that you do know may be strangers, you've maybe met them a few weeks ago, maybe your colleagues, whatever it may be the case, those people are strangers.
Oh, yeah.
And they have their own conflicts. If they're going to bring those conflicts to you, you're going to run tail. You know, it's not going to be a good time, and you're going to feel icky at the end of the day. So yeah, pick and choose your friends wisely.
Absolutely. And, you know, the most important thing is when we get into things about Think and Grow Rich and how all that comes into play. You know, thinking positive, okay, that's one thing. One of the things that W. Clement Stone was well known for was to wake up the subconscious mind. And he would have people repeat this at every sales meeting. It was repeated. We had Emerson Brantley on recently, and Emerson worked with or worked for W. Clement Stone at one time, and he says, I feel healthy, I feel happy, I feel terrific, but each time you say it with more energy. I feel healthy, I feel happy, I feel terrific.
Positively affirming that.
Yes, exactly. It wakes up the subconscious mind. And because a lot of people do not realize that Napoleon Hill he was born in poverty. And in 1937, he was a failed businessman. He admits that. He was also a bit of a scam artist. He had a fraud, and he was bankrupt. And then what changed his life was a series of things. He had went to college, and he decided he was going to be a writer, and he thought he would write stories about key people, sell them, and try to pay his way through college. Fortunately for him, do you know who the first person he was that he actually interviewed?
Who?
That gentleman was none other than Andrew Carnegie. And Andrew Carnegie evidently saw something in young Hill. And he says, now listen here, I've sat here and talked to you for a couple hours. He says, why don't you come on over to the house, we'll eat, and I'll visit with you some more. And Hill was blown away. And so Hill went. He says, I was there for 3 days and 3 nights. And at the end of the third day, Andrew Carnegie said, listen here, I've been talking to you, for 3 days now about a new philosophy for the man of the streets so that they can do what we have acquired in a lifetime of knowledge. They can apply that knowledge now to help them get from poverty to wherever they want to be in life.
Which is a very large struggle in today's world.
And poverty,
believe
I'm
me.
not talking about just, money. you can be bankrupt inside as far as your morals, your values, your ethics, and how you feel about yourself.
Mm.
Would you agree with that, Adam?
Oh, yes. Positive talk essentially creates your environment.
It really does. And Hill goes on to say, he says, I was asked one of the most embarrassing questions of my life. He says, if I commission you, this is Andrew Carnegie talking to Napoleon Hill, if I commission you and introduce you to people that you need to be introduced to interview them, to get the stories of how they became successful, it's going to take you 20 years. Would you go to work for me and do that without any pay from me? And he says, I was standing there, I had my hand in my pocket with
That's
a few
steep
coins.
ask.
With a few coins in my pocket. And he says, I probably wouldn't have had enough money to get back if I didn't stay at Mr. Carnegie's house, if I had to buy a room or something. And he says, here the richest man in the world wanted me to go work for him for 20 years with no pay. But there was something in Hill that said, yes. And he said, you got the job. And they shook hands on it. And he says, other than paying his expenses to get him from point A to point B and back, that was the only thing that Andrew Carnegie actually compensated Hill for. And he wrote several books, but the one worth publishing was Think and Grow Rich.
Think and Grow Rich.
Mm-hmm. And Hill served 2 U.S. presidents. And everybody knows, when you think of FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, everyone knows his famous saying, the only thing we have to, can you finish that?
Oh, goodness.
Yeah. The only thing we have to fear is what? Is fear itself.
It's fear itself.
Yeah. And
Wow.
you know, a lot of people credit FDR with saying that, but really, that quote actually came as he was serving the president. That quote actually came from Napoleon Hill, but he never took credit for it.
That's an interesting bout because I haven't heard that quote in
Yeah.
a very long time, ever since 4th grade, actually. That was wow, yeah. The only thing to fear is fear itself. Because fear derives everything in our current lives. I mean, we fear getting groceries every day to make sure that those groceries are, enough for the week and they won't spoil for the week.
Yeah.
As well as, just that's a common thing that we don't we subconsciously think it's more not prevalent in our frontal control. And fear itself, being able to control your fear, helps immensely in multiple fields, especially since most of the scarcity comes from not having or not knowing. So it's those two factors that work in tandem if you don't know something, you're fearful of it. And as well as if you just can't have it, it's almost this jealousy fear of like, well, what are you going to do with that too? So I definitely, expanding on that.
Oh, yeah.
Makes sense.
And the thing too is that Bill points this out in his book, The 7 Levels of Truth, very clearly. He says, we are born into a world of survival. That's our natural physical existence. That's the way we feel naturally.
And Jim, would you say that there are like rules or maybe principles we could go off of on each individual part of survival too?
Yeah, exactly. In fact, down there on the marquee, I've got The Strangest Secret by Earl Nightingale. He covers a lot of the same reinforcement principles of changing your life and having the power to change your life that books like The 7 Levels of Truth, Think and Grow Rich, Success Through a Positive Mental Attitude, and on and on and on. A lot of authors out there have their spin on positive mental attitudes. And Dennis Waitley, I forget the name of his book. In fact, I read it a couple of times. Dennis talked about the book that changed his life was Think and Grow Rich. And he became inspired to share his own book about how to create and develop a positive mental attitude and that sort of thing. And that's very, very important because we're born into a world of survival. Bill narrows it down to two basic emotions. There's fear and there's love. Fear, of course, when it comes to young kids, kids need to understand that fear is natural, it is normal, and it can control you if you let it.
Just like
If
your
you-
dopamine.
Yeah. If you have the fear that, your friends may not like you, or you have the fear that you may not be able to pass a test, anything like that. Bill talked about in one of the previous shows that we did, him and Michaela did the show. They talked about, Bill shared, he says, when I'm faced with a fear, I embrace that fear. I want you to get that. I embrace that fear. I don't run from it because most of us will run from it. We don't want to think about it. Oh, I don't want to think about, those bills I got coming in now. I'll deal with it later. You're running from your fear. Bill talks about embracing the fear. Like, come here, Bills. I love you. And what that does, and this falls right into what what you're talking about, the dopamine. What that does is that you have conquered your fear rather than letting your fear conquer you.
Yes.
Think about that. Because once you embrace those bills, hey, I got these bills here, I don't have enough money, that's okay.
And put it also into the fact that you might even be late to work one day, and that makes you fearful of losing your job.
Or
Like
getting in trouble at least, huh?
embracing that you were late at one point and how hurtful that may have been allows you to be, I would say, a little more on time because you're appreciative of the fact that you won't do it again,
Yeah.
rather
Yeah.
than you're upset and angry at the fact that you did, which that's what fear does. It turns us into this raw, angry emotion sometimes too.
Yeah. It makes a coward out of us too. Your dad's been in the military. He's retired military. I'm retired military. And from a military life and being around your dad, an appointment, when you have an appointment, that's important.
Yes.
If you're late for an appointment, you don't make excuses. You must have a reason. And so I had an appointment with a colonel, and I was about 10 minutes late. And I walked in, I said, sir, I want to apologize for being late. I said, I had car trouble, to be honest with you. And he says, oh, really, Sarge? He says, what's wrong with your car? I said, there wasn't a thing wrong with my car, sir. I had trouble getting to it. That was the problem. And he kind of laughed, and I shared with him that I was in another meeting and we couldn't get out of there. And he said, I understand. But I had the courage to tell him the truth. And I just put my spin on it because I've got a sense of humor, and a sense of humor sometimes can really break the ice.
It can. The tension.
It really can. Sometimes it can, especially in some tense situations, because when I told him the reason I was late, I had car trouble, he automatically thought that I had a flat tire or the engine wouldn't start, dead battery, whatever. And I says, no, sir, it wasn't anything like that. I just had trouble getting to the car. That was my car trouble. And he laughed. But it broke the ice, and it allowed me to be honest with him because I could not get out of that meeting as fast as I wanted to, or it went over is what happened. So that
But if you say something
domino.
like that, it's just like, oh, so the other meeting was a lot more important, than our meeting. And instead, just kind of finding a way to fine tune these moments in your life and think on the ball almost.
Oh, yeah.
Where you can adjust. And that's a part of the military too that a lot of people don't understand is adversity and bouncing back with resilience. It's definitely your main top quality that you should train. And if you do train it, it does create these parts in your brain where you can adapt and find different avenues that are, maybe not commonly thought of.
Let's talk about one particular word that I like. If a young person wants to change their life, they want to change their direction.
Mm.
I've known a couple people in my life
So
who
an art
grew up-
student
who
going-
grew up, they grew up in poverty. They had a couple of generations, maybe 3 generations, I don't remember, of people just living on government handouts. Let me put it like that. And that was the only life that those people knew. But they decided they did not want to live their life like that. They had a much higher vision for themselves. And there's been multitude. I mean, there's just been thousands and thousands of people from all walks of life down through the passage of time who have literally went from rags to riches. And the key thing that they all had in common, this is a great place to start, is a word called desire.
Mm.
In other words, I'm sick and tired of doing this. I've got the desire now that I'm going to do something else. How important is your desire in life? And how can we help a young person realize that they're in control of their life? They can change their life if they change their mindset. And
See-
having a desire is actually like a GPS gadget in their brain, isn't it?
Right. And to put it into more simpler terms,
Okay.
let's say you fish, right, Jim? know?
With a, not traditionally, I use a telephone and 2 wires.
There you go. That works too. But if you're going fishing, you want to fish. You
Yeah.
want to catch that fish, and you want to not get sunburnt at the same time, right? Because
Oh, yeah.
it's that want that we're talking about. You specifically going and, let's say you're at the beach. Well, you want water when you're there because you might get dehydrated. And that want is I would say a simple desire, because we all want water. We all are simplistically, it's what we need, right? Rather than a want. Well, I want to not get sunburnt at the beach, so I put on sunscreen. That, now it's a little more, okay, well, now you don't want something to happen that naturally happens. And I would say that that's a more complicated, need, rather than a simple need or a simple want. The tangible ones are what are simple, rather than the more challenging ones, which are complicated. And with that, you're able to find, I believe, a desire that works for you. What
Yeah.
you're doing currently, you may like, but is it what you want to do?
Yeah. It's important too for young people, and a lot of us know about this, and some of us have forgotten about it. Yours truly, for one. And that is, it's so important to write your desire down and put it up somewhere where you see it every day. It could be a little note, like a little memo note on the refrigerator, or your coffee pot, if you're like me, or in front of your coffee pot. But it's important to see that every day. And where I like to put my memo notes, and my wife ignores it, is on the mirror in the bathroom.
That is a
Is
great
that-
tool.
Yeah, it reinforces those written words. When you see those printed words, it reinforces your desire that you've set for yourself. Because it's the beauty of it. It's your desire. It's your path. It's your dream. And it's very easy for us, if we try to keep everything up here with all the confusion going on, all the text messages we get, the emails we get, the things we see on social media, the things we see here. Somebody sends us a video we just got to see. All these distractions. That mental note can get shoved way back into the corner without us knowing it.
Right. And piggybacking off of what you said about writing things down and putting it down on paper
Yeah.
or somewhere that you can see visually, that's great to kind of segue into the story of a neighbor I once knew who wanted a car. And that car was a Mercedes Benz. Really nice, slick, really nice Mercedes Benz 2022. So he was going around. He met another neighbor of ours who was doing vision boards. And what they did, the vision board artist, we'll call her Lisa. Lisa was creating these vision boards with people, having group meetings, and they would all just, get a bunch of newspapers, get a bunch of photos of things that they would like, and put them on a board. And if all the things that you want to happen in your life go on that board, they do. A few months later, after I kind of convened with him a few times, he had his dream car. And I asked him, what exactly happened, between then and now? He said,
Oh, yeah.
something about quitting a job, something about getting a better one because he dug deep into himself and finding out how, because he saw what he wanted.
Yeah, took inventory of
that's great.
himself, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
because he said, that's going to be in my garage every single day. And it was really interesting to find that out, because even getting my own car was, I had to go to about 30 different dealerships before the one dealer was like, you know what, your price does sound okay. So,
yeah, it's really amazing how, little things like that. Let's say if you want to lose weight, you may even just want to have a picture of a person that you want to use as a inspirational guide to lose weight. And just put that picture up somewhere where you see it every single day. You may even put it somewhere on the dashboard of your car. So you're sitting in traffic or whatever, you're stopped at a stoplight, you can glance over there, and that image will reinforce your mind. This is what I want. This is my desire in life. Because without a desire or without a want, you're going to be like a ship without a rudder.
a shell without a turtle.
Exactly. And that's really one of the top things, to have a desire in your life to help you get. And then the second thing that they list there is faith. Normally when we hear the word faith, we think about religion. But in this case here, they're talking about have faith in yourself. Have the courage to fail and get back up. That takes faith.
It also takes grit.
Oh, yeah.
It does take this will that
Yeah.
we all will ourselves to do. We will ourselves to get up every morning.
Oh, yeah.
I know. And the best part about your morning is what you make of it. I found that, what we do in the first moments of us waking up is what we will retain for the rest of the day. And that is, either looking up at at your godly figure, is in your religious state, or simply looking at your phone in the morning and seeing if your social media likes went up to feel good about the day. So putting your faith in certain places, definitely a good topic to
Yeah.
focus on for yourself. You
Yeah,
know?
because your faith in what your ability, you got to trust yourself too. You got to realize that you have everything that you need to help you get from where you are to where you want to be. You really do. You may need help from others, but you have the ability, the gifts to be able to realize that the little hinges on doors is what swings open these big doors. And you need to embrace that. Speaking and faith, for example, going into a little bit of a religious slant, ever since I had my heart attack and surgery and all those good things, I realized, and I started training my brain, Train your brain. Write those 3 words down. Train your brain. And I'm still working on training this brain here because it wants to do things its way. But I try to remember every morning when I wake up to be thankful I got heartbeat in my veins, breath in my lungs. Because really, we're the kind of people, and this is really sad to be honest with you, but
Oh, let's get real, Jim.
yeah, we only value the things that we spend money for. The things that don't cost us anything, that is totally priceless, we kind of like take for granted.
Time with your family, time with your dog,
Love.
time with yourself, and love, self-love.
Love. I mean, how many times have you thought about in your lifetime? I don't remember. I don't mean a specific number, but how often would you say you've thought about being thankful for the heartbeat in your veins?
Not often enough.
None of us have been. And
That's the truth.
We all know if you don't have that, you're not going to have a good day. And I can tell you right now, there's no stores out there that sell heartbeats.
Mentally thinking it even right now makes me feel super grateful for the body I have.
Yeah, exactly. And being thankful like that, because like I said, it's really sad because what we really put value on and what either keeps us with friends or separates us from friends, many times it's about money. How many
Or
times?
things.
Yeah, how many times have we heard of friendships get split up, go away because of money?
Got a good story for that one.
Go ahead.
There was once a boy named Garth that I knew, and Garth and Janet were together, right? So Garth would usually come to me for advice and stuff like that, just to kind of get the ropes around the relationship. For some reason, I allowed this. So the relationship advice was going so well, but then it started coming out as maybe she's not got enough money for me in this relationship. Like, she's not working
Wow.
that much, and she's not doing what I need monetarily. And I go, okay, buddy, let me spot you one time for gas, Now, I asked the question to the audience, do you believe that I got that $20 back? When he's already going through this, monogamy of money almost. And it's this part where in a partnership of any kind of relationship that you have, even with a parent, because, not all parents are the same, not all parents are well off, and not all parents have a lot of money. Not a lot of parents have a lot of money. Like, there's like the haves and have-nots are your responsibility. And every single day, those two people that I was talking about in this story, of course, they're good now. They're married, they're having a good time, they're all they have kids, and they're having a happy life because he talked to her, found out what was going on, and pushed her through with some really influential faith in himself, that although he could not, for her, he would double as much as he could.
Wow.
And that puts you in a position where to think, well, maybe am I putting enough faith in myself to do more for someone else I care about, or is it just for me?
Yeah.
Because you can be selfish. Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah. There's no question about it. And another thing that they talk about is auto-suggestion. Now, when I talk about auto-suggestion, that's the perfect example is what W. Clement Stone taught his team. And every time they got together, I feel healthy, I feel happy, I feel terrific. And you are saying that 3 times with more elevated energy each time, because auto-suggestion also convinces your subconscious mind what you believe in, the direction you're going in, and failure is not acceptable. Getting back to I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going to put you on the spot here, if I may.
Yes.
Getting back to this right here, The Strangest Secret by Earl Nightingale, have you ever had an opportunity to listen to that or not?
I have only listened to about maybe half of it.
Okay.
'Cause I got
No.
it was a pretty long
Yeah.
little section.
It's about 35 minutes or so. But,
But to like actually write down these things he was specifically
Yeah.
talking about.
what's really amazing, and this was a little hard for me to really, grasp.
Hmm.
And that's when he says, no matter what you asked of the universe cannot deny you. You've already got it. You just have to go through the process, the journey to get there. It's kind of like if I'm in Florida and I want to go to Los Angeles, California, nothing can stop me. But I've got to go through the process of physically leaving Florida to travel to.
Going through
Los
MCO
Angeles.
or Stanford and
Yeah.
going through the lines and all these. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That process, that's the process he's talking about.
Yeah, exactly. And that is really important because the auto-suggestion, the secret here is you convince your subconscious mind that this is what's going to happen and failure is not acceptable. Because you flip that around back into fear, well, what if this doesn't work? Or what if that doesn't work?
What if, yeah.
Your subconscious mind really is more powerful than you really think because it will twist things around, it will manipulate you to where you will not be disappointed. That can be positive or it can be negative.
Wow.
Yeah, because if you keep saying, this is what I want, if I make a mistake, I'll make it right. Failure is not acceptable. I feel healthy, I feel happy, I feel terrific. These are things that young people and old people too, including yours truly, need to hear. We need to brand this into our brain. I'm serious when I say that.
Mm-hmm.
Because the very moment you stop learning, the very moment that you think you don't need anything is the very moment that your soul quits breathing. Think about
If you
that.
never try something,
Mhm.
you will never, I think it
Yeah.
was, you would never learn something
Yeah.
new. And I believe Albert Einstein said that.
Yeah, I get a kick out of watching people that's
Something
maybe
like
in
that.
their 80s or something like that, and on their bucket list in life, the one thing they want to do, and sometimes they'll do it on a milestone like an 80th birthday, is go skydiving out of a plane, parachuting. Because if I always wanted to have done it, well, like this one guy, many years ago, he said, well, I figure if I don't do it now, I'm not getting any younger, I may not be able to next year.
He's falling out of the plane and the
Yeah.
bones are just rattling.
Yeah. Well, he just, but he did. He went parachute jumping. And he says it was everything that I expected and more than I expected. But he says it was like he was in his own world there for a while. And then the parachute opened and then he was sailing down, looking around, and he was just so very, very thankful that he did it. And think about this as a young person or an old person. Age is irrelevant. Think about when you accomplish something in your life. How does that make you feel? Even if it's...
How will it make you feel when you finally
Yeah,
cross off that thing off your list
yeah,
that you've
exactly.
been putting off? Or yeah.
And one thing I have found too that really helps me when I'm struggling with something, let me take something that everybody can relate to. Cleaning out the garage.
Oh yes.
Yeah, okay. You don't look at all the junk you got to move and mentally struggle with what's trash and what's treasures because your wife may say this is trash and you go, no, that's actually a treasure. I might need that 500 years from now. But what you do, you visualize on how will you feel when you got it cleaned up swept up, things put on the shelf, maybe organize some things in boxes and store them somewhere.
Putting
How
up
would
new
you
organization
feel?
tools.
Yeah. How would you feel? How's it going to feel when you can walk in there and maybe through a cup of coffee the next morning and say, wow, I'm glad I got that done, rather than look at the biggest mess on planet Earth?
That's the best feeling right there, is that
Mm-hmm.
the next day you wake up and you see what you've done, feel proud of that.
Yeah.
Because you
My-
are worthy of that proud feeling.
I-
You
I'm sorry, Dan. I'm getting
Oh.
kind of wound up here.
so me too.
I remember my father, you know, he planted, we grew, Dad did, he planted and grew cotton and corn on on the farm up there. And one of the things that he did, and I noticed a lot of farmers like to do this, get up in the morning or either late in the afternoon, and that is look and observe their fields, what they accomplished, either the earlier during the day or the next morning from what they did yesterday. The feeling of that, the feeling of accomplishment, that is just so unique. So when you're talking to a young person, get them to imagine how they're going to feel when they finally graduate from school, or they graduate from college. You know they're going to have to buckle down. You know they're going to have to deny themselves from doing certain things to be able to apply quality time to things that need to get done. And they don't look forward to that any more than you would going into the garage and cleaning it out or cleaning out your closets and stuff.
Here's something that some people and a lot of people
Go
might
ahead.
be able to relate to, is that feeling when you get right off that stage, right, and you're graduating. Let's say, for example, most of us who have graduated at least middle school, going on to high school, it didn't really feel different. Like I don't feel different. That's the saying I usually hear. But then it's that like few days when you're getting into this new thing
Yeah.
that it like, oh, whoa, this is different.
Mhm.
So it's the the unexpected kind of feeling that you have to adapt. And I
Yeah.
found it's really interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Putting ourselves in that.
I remember when I graduated from high school in 1967, and it was raining, and they had to, we were going to be out there on a football field, but since it started raining that day, they had to make all these adjustments, and we were going to do it in a gymnasium, and the entire class was kind of like, we don't care. Give us our diploma, we're out of here. Because we earned the right to say that we graduated from high school, we just want to get out of here. Give me my paper, because now we want to be able to enjoy and rejoice with each other, you know, and just have a good time and be thankful. That's why it's so important to treat yourself now in the heat of the battle, in the middle of the struggle, and say, you know, I'm going to visualize how I'm going to feel.
Yeah, and use your imagination.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Put a little pepper and Tabasco on there. Sauce it up a little bit, you know?
Even if you're not a creative person, even if you don't feel like you have any artistic value whatsoever, I can guarantee you that right side of your brain says otherwise.
Oh, yeah.
As a
Oh, yeah.
creative and as a person that likes all of the arts, I find that people who are very logical find it hard. So definitely still have it, because you still have come up with that, you know, rig number that just for some reason works with that algorithm. You know, that's art too. Whatever you feel like you are not, I challenge your imagination to do. You know, just your head. You don't have to like physically do it. Just your imagination. You know, in that headspace.
And let's do a quick recap here right quickly. What is the thing that we encourage people to do? And that is write your goal down.
Yes.
There's just something about that. and I should have looked that up before we went live, but there's something about writing it down that just really reinforces the brain. Hey, this person is serious. He wrote that down or she wrote that down. And then what was the next thing that I said you do with that little memo?
It was the having faith in yourself.
No, that what
Oh.
would we do with the memo once it's written? What do we do with it?
You're
Yeah.
you're reinforcing it, putting it up somewhere that you see it every single day.
Exactly, because that's what impresses the subconscious mind. That's the one you got to convince. The conscious mind, you got that one.
That's the reactive, quick, quick,
Yeah.
quick. But it's this cerebral cortex right in the back that
Yeah.
really, really need to put on a show for it.
I remember one time my mother and dad, they were at a doctor after my dad got hurt on the job. And he was almost electrocuted he worked for Duke Power Company there in Shelby, North Carolina. 72,000 volts hit him back in 1954, knocked him off the pole and that sort of thing. And
So not to be too grim, but it was that scene from Jurassic Park where they were on the fence, right?
yeah. He was, back in those days, they never wore safety equipment. They just had leather gloves. They didn't wear rubber gloves, didn't have fiberglass helmets or anything. They just told them the line was dead. And Dad had seen a couple of guys get fried, and he always would just take his finger and just flick the back of that wire like that. And it hit right in the middle finger there on the knuckle, entered his body, crossed over, and it actually burned a hole through the bunion of his Red Wing climbing boot, big enough that I could put a nickel through there. That's how much juice went through his body. It almost killed him. And the doctor was talking about, well, there won't, his physical problems he'll deal with, but mentally he should be okay. And I remember my mother was teasing him later on. She says, now I wish we'd have had your brain checked out. I know you're. He said, well, if they'd x-rayed it, they probably wouldn't have found anything anyway. But that's before MRIs and all that stuff. But anyway, the point of it is, in recapping, write your goal down.
Reinforce it.
Yeah. You don't have to
Yeah.
show it to anybody. It's yours. You own it. And put it in a place that you can see it.
I would also like to encourage writing a lot more, just in your own thoughts.
Oh,
getting
yeah.
getting your thoughts on paper. Even if it doesn't make any sense, even if it's like, hello, hi, I'm your thoughts. Legitimately,
Yeah.
that is the process that we would like to,
Yeah.
me personally would like to put in your challenge pool of things to do.
That's a good thing, just to get like a spiral notebook. You can pick them up anywhere. I know that we don't do much in paper anymore, but I've got several spirals.
Oh, yes.
This is one like this right here, get the wire. And I'm not going to show you my notes or anything like that. But
No,
I keep my notes up here, what I need to say and all that. But I think it's a good thing, as you were saying, just today, this is what I wanted to do. And today, these were the things that occupied my mind. That way you can start identifying red flags. You can start waking up your subconscious mind that, hey, social media, you spent too much time on it yesterday. That's a good way to start training your brain.
It's whatever first comes to mind. It's
Yeah.
right on that paper.
Write it down.
Yeah, that's that challenge for today.
Yeah, it sure is. Well, our time's just about gone. We got about a minute and a half left, and I just want to give you, Adam, a chance to say any closing comments you'd like to make or anything that's on your mind you hadn't had a chance to say due to me talking so much today.
Well, folks, I mean, all of the people that are in TV land right now, I just really always appreciate the fact that you tune in and you always put us in your minds to allow you to be better. And making sure that everybody just knows that to be better, what it means to be better is self-reflection and what you say to yourself on the daily, reinforcing that positive talk. And because of your mentorship, or mentoring, be in that mindset of positive talk to each other. It really does go a long way. and it really puts people in a nice place. Like for example, Jim, I really appreciate you letting me co-host the show. I love the fact
Wow.
that you and I gel very well together.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's going to be as simple as that, but definitely putting that love as well as from our topic today.
Well, thank
into
you
that.
very much. The way I look at it, Adam he's got youth, he's got good looks. Adam thinks that I bring wisdom and with brains, and don't tell him I don't have the brains, okay? Let it be our secret, okay? Don't
I
let
put it in the
anybody know
jar. I put it in the jar. Don't worry.
But really, on what Adam said there, I wanted to just add to that. I've got something on my eyes or something that's been bothering me today, so I apologize for that. But
It's all the crusties we had to wipe out from the
yeah.
mid-afternoon officer nap.
Oh, yeah. And I just want to say to all you folks out there in TV land, thank you so much, because you could have spent your time watching somebody else's show or just doing something else, but you chose, whether you watch this live or on a replay, whatever, video on demand. We just want to say thank you so much. And we hope and we pray that we have been a blessing to you today. And bottom line is this: be sure you love yourself first. Then you can love others. And forgive those that have wronged you. Let it go. Because the longer you embrace it, the longer it owns you. Not them, but what you're upset about. It owns you. But as soon as you let it go, it doesn't own you anymore. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you later. We'll be back next week. And we may pick up on some more of these topics here because we didn't cover everything we were going to. So we're going to finish covering some of the topics here about young people. So be sure and share the show with others. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Yep. Comment, like, and favorite.